What's up, everybody? Welcome to Move the Sticks. DJ Buck with you. Buck, what is going on, man? Looks like you're in the FL here.
I am. I'm down in Florida, down in Jacksonville. We have some preseason TV meetings that we're going over. Spent a couple of days watching the team. They got 3 OTA practices while I'm down here, so I check the team out. Get a chance to give you an update on what Travis Hunter is doing as a two-way player because we've never really seen that happen. So really excited about it. More importantly, I'm looking forward to seeing what Trevor Lawrence is able to do because the new money on his deal is about to kick in, and with more money comes higher expectations. And so we're looking for Trevor Lawrence to make a huge jump this year.
Oh, that's going to get us right into this. It's time for the lead block presented by T-Mobile for Business. Football needs a network willing to go the extra yard. So do you. Go further with T-Mobile for Business. Buck, we're going to get into a book that I've read and about a different sport, and we're going to bring it to football. But before we do that, I do want to start off, and you just teased it there with the fact that you're in Jacksonville. Let's start. First of all, I think people listening to this want to know, like, what is the early plan? What is the early thoughts there on what you've seen from Travis Hunter?
So the early plan right now is he's an offensive player who also has defensive obligations. So he's a two-way player. But I would say, like, if he was playing on my high school team, we would dub Travis Hunter like a 1.5 player, meaning he's going to start on offense, and then he's going to be a situational player on defense, which makes a lot of sense. Anyone who has coached high school, who's played high school, that's typically how you go. You don't want to wear your guy out all the way. And I think there's a smart way to be able to get it done, and they have everything planned out. So from a practice schedule standpoint, 3 days of offense, 1 day of defense. Cover those situations that you need him on defense. Make sure he's ready for that. Whether that's third down, red zone, got to have his situations, have him ready. I think it's also a lot easier to do it when you're more of a zone-based team than a man-based team. Because when you think about zone, it's not the running around that is required in man-to-man. When it's zone coverage, it's see ball, get ball, hang in your area, those things. And I also think that plays to his strengths. One of the things that I believed in Travis Hunter when he was coming out, I didn't necessarily see him as a lockdown corner. I saw him as a playmaking corner, someone that was going to potentially pick off a lot of passes because his ball skills are exceptional. His awareness and instincts, all of those things stood out to me. I think it'd be a good fit. I'm excited to see how they do it. But really, man, the kid is the one that makes it work. He is all ball all the time. And that has been a bit of a change in terms of like the energy that he brings. It's infectious, and it changes the dynamic in the locker room.
What does that offense look like? Give me an idea of they go out there in the spring here and this time heading into the summer. Give me that skill position group. What's that look like?
DJ, I think it's going to be very, very reminiscent to what the Rams did early in Sean McVay's tenure. So don't think about the latest iteration of the Rams when it was Puka and Cooper Kupp and those guys. I want you to go back to when it was Robert Woods, Brandon Cooks, Cooper Kupp, and how they were fast and dynamic and really trying to stretch the field, but then being able to dump it off. I think it's going to be that version. Diami Brown, Ryan Thomas Jr., Travis Hunter, you're here, Bretton Strange's name come in there as the tight end one. Parker Washington will play a big role in this offense, but this offense is going to be one where they think they can create explosive plays vertically and horizontally. And I would also say this, like Travis Etienne, there's some conversation about where he fits in. He could actually benefit with the vertical stretch game because that may create more space for him to operate underneath. And Bajal Tootin, the rookie from Virginia Tech, keep an eye on him. He might get some stuff. Now, I led you wrong last year when I said, "Hey, go all in."
2 years ago, Bigsby, 2 years ago.
So then I'm just saying,
out of the penalty box. I put you in the penalty box for a year in terms of my fantasy advice for my little fantasy football team. But you're out of the penalty box now. I'm back taking all Bucky Book's recommendations. So Tootin, I'll definitely make a note on that one. What's the early return and how Trevor likes the new group, the new setup he's got there in terms of coaching staff?
Listen to everything that Trevor said. Like, he's been really positive in terms of all of that stuff. And I also feel like the sense of belief in him from the coaching staff, I think that rubs off on the player. Like, when the player feels like the coaching staff fully believes in his talent and what he can be, I think there's a different kind of buy-in that you can get. He obviously knows that there's a lot on him. There's a lot of responsibilities on him. Obviously, given the big contract, there's an expectation that this team goes from good to great under his watch. So he has to figure that part out. But Here's what I do know. When you bet on people as opposed to the player, you're betting on the character of the kid. The character is right with Trevor Lawrence and Travis Hunter and some of the other guys that are on the team. So I'm a believer that the team will be right because you got enough of those pieces in the locker room that want to be right.
A lot of nice guys, man. When you kind of think about that, like a lot of good dudes, nice guys they've got in that
Yeah,
group.
and look, they've always had a team full of nice guys. I would say maybe the difference is the thing that kind of came up throughout the draft. We heard a lot of reports of people putting that third column on the board about character. Do they love it? Do they really love it? I think you might have more guys that love it in the locker room than they had in the past. That naturally changes the culture. So when you have want to guys as opposed to have
Have
to,
to, yeah.
it changes everything. And the great teams that you and I have been around, hey, DJ, they were player led. You could go out, you might be looking on the practice field and you see a handful of guys working out on their own, not because someone made them, but just because that was kind of the standard and the expectation. I've heard you talk about Ed Reed and Ray Lewis and how they kind of held guys to a different standard. I think that is some of the stuff that you're hopeful that will happen in Jacksonville.
No doubt. Well, there you go. That's a wrap for the lead block presented by T-Mobile for Business. Football needs a network willing to go the extra yard. So do you. Go further with T-Mobile for Business. Buck, I teased it at the top. You know, this is our time of year. We both love to read, and this is a time of year where we actually have a little more time to dig into some stuff, and whether that's audiobooks, listening to podcasts, reading books, just different things, trying to learn and grow. And I think we both share a passion for trying to study other sports and how that can help us in our football life. And man, I'm about halfway through this book right now, but I wanted to jump into it because it's a book. Stevie Williams is the caddy for Tiger Woods for a very long time, really during his key stretch of dominance on the PGA Tour. This book's called Together We Roared. And I've never really read a ton on Tiger. I've seen, obviously, there's been a million different things on TV over the years, kind of tell his story. But this is kind of going into that block, that just the most dominant, piece of golf we've ever seen from anybody. I mean, I did not realize. I mean, I followed golf loosely during those early years in the early 2000s, late 90s, kind of going into his epic run. But I wasn't like locked in and didn't really truthfully understand a whole lot about golf. So when you're going through this and you're reading this and you're like, he was so much better than everybody else. Like, it was utter dominance. But when I was reading through this thing, like, there was a lot of takeaways that stood out to me. And so I jotted 5 down, and I wanted to kind of get your thoughts and how this relates to other sports, particularly in the football world. But the first takeaway, he wasn't afraid to tinker when he was at the top. So he wins his first major in a dominating fashion at the Masters. And you'd think, okay, well, what I'm doing is working. But he was not happy with some of the variance in his game and his swing and not getting the consistent results that he wanted. So he actually made some swing changes and kind of had to take almost a little bit of a step back while he was adjusting to these changes, because he knew in order to be as dominant as he wanted to be, even though he was at the very top, Buck, there was no satisfaction. And he was always looking to try and see what I need to change to get better at. Whereas some people would say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I feel like the truly great ones, even when they get to the top of the mountain, they're like, in order to stay here, I got to do something a little more, a little different.
It's funny you say that because Nick Saban also has subscribed to that theory that even when you're at the top, that doesn't mean that you stay with what you've done to get you there. You always have to be one step ahead of the posse when it comes to trying to achieve the greatness that you believe is possible with the group that you have. And for Tiger Woods to do that, I do remember he did a radical swing change, like right after he started winning. Changed coaches. I think he had Butch Harmon or whatever. Changed coaches.
Went to Butch Harmon.
And just look, lost a few, but when he came back and he went on that run, it was a different Tiger Woods that you're dealing with. And look, man, that's courageous. You cannot be a shrinking violet if you're willing to make those changes at the top. And so many of us would not do it. Like, think about the great football teams that we've seen, and we'll use the Patriots because they're the most dominant football team that we've seen in our era. But think about how they constantly changed the way they approached the game. Like, they won it a few different ways. Yeah, Tom Brady was the central figure in that. But look, they won with the defense leading the way. They won with Tom Brady playing small ball with a cast of unheralded pass catches on the outside. they didn't win the Super Bowl, but they won with Randy Moss and them playing big boy ball, pushing it down the field. The adaptability of great coaches chasing that ultimate game, that ultimate season, it's a testament to the courage that they have.
Yeah, again, that's what's so neat about studying these great players, historically dominant players, greatest of all time type players, and you take it over to other sports and you see a lot of the things that they share in common. So that was the first one there, a little tinker at the top. The next one I wrote down was practice with a purpose. It talks a lot about how guys would go to the range and hit, hundreds of balls and do different things. And it said he never took a swing that he wasn't focused on one particular thing on every single swing. And he talks to the caddy, he's telling the story, and he talks about how he basically had to be security. Like when he would go to the range to work and everybody wanted to come up and get a piece of him, fellow players, maybe there's a sponsor, maybe it's the guy who's running the tournament, they would all kind of try and walk over to him. And he said Tiger kind of had like a signal he would give him, like, hey, I'm working, like I'll talk to you later, but not now. Like there was like a focus and a purpose with every single swing that he took. I thought that was pretty fascinating.
I think it's very common with the great ones. The great ones in sports always talk about deliberate practice. The late Kobe Bryant would talk about the intent that you have behind every practice rep, the things that you're going in to work on. You may go into the gym and just work on one move over and over and over again. Tiger Woods was notorious for just how great he was with his short game. So even when his stuff off the tee wasn't right, short game, he could always make it up because it's the scoring zone. That's the area that a lot of people just kind of bypass. They ignore because they want to hit the driver off the tee and do all that other stuff. But the points, the games are won or lost when it comes to putting. Chipping and putting is what he always would talk about. And when you think about the deliberate practice, I talk about Kobe. I also talk about Malcolm Gladwell, and they talk about 10,000 hours and how the masterpieces came for Da Vinci and Michelangelo when they poured in 10,000 hours of deliberate practice on their craft. That's what it takes. And at a time when we talk about loving the game and got to have a group of guys that really love it, is because the great ones know that you have to pour in all this extra time that's not required, time that's not standard, but the time that everyone knows is necessary to be great.
There's a lot of great stories in there. One of which was he was in the middle. I think it was in the middle of a major, and was driving with the caddy like back to the hotel or wherever they were staying at that tournament. And he said, "Hey, pull over." And they're like, "What?" And he like pulls over to the side of the road. He goes to the trunk. He takes out his 7-iron off to the side of the road and takes like 5 swings. Puts the thing back in the bag. Gets in the car and goes, "We're good. I found it." Like he had thought of there was something with that particular club that didn't feel right, and he must have they were driving. He must have thought there's some tip or something that he thought of like a key, a feel, and he's like, "Why, before this leaves my mind, I got to get that club in my hand so I can feel what I'm thinking." And then he found it, and then it said like he was locked in with that club the whole rest of the time. Tells stories about when he would go play, overseas, and he would be playing in England or wherever they were going to play. And he would go to Ireland ahead of time because he wanted to get used to those types of courses, but he could do it without people knowing he was there and just go over there and practice and know that he needed to hit lower shots, stay out of the wind because of the conditions over there. And so that was, that was fascinating to me. And that gets to my next one because it was this tournament at St. Andrews, which was the first, Open that he won, overseas or to get as he's working towards that Grand Slam, the British Open. And he in this tournament, this is why I wrote down those great elite players. Their goals are different than normal people. Like a normal person would write down, "I want to win the British Open," right? His goal when he got there was, "I'm not going to hit a bunker." Like they're notorious that course over there at St. Andrews. Like it's just these super tall, narrow bunkers. You can't get out of them. They're a nightmare. And he played that whole round, did not hit one bunker. So everybody else is like, "How do I shoot low?" There's another one where he's talking about he just was like, "I'm not going to 3-putt." And he went on like an epic string of like several tournaments in a row without 3-putting. Went through a whole tournament, no bogeys. Like I'm not just like, that is my focus. It will not be a single bogey. He talked about margin of victory. Like I'm going to win this tournament by the greatest margin that we've ever seen. And some of his margins of victory were ridiculous for people that are, more golf knowledgeable than I am. Like I was shocked. Like when you're 12 under and the second place guy is 3 over in a major. Like, it was just a level of not just I want to win, but it was very, think about, I think Emmitt Smith had talked about this a long, long time ago, about like specific goals. Like, you have to set specific goals. It's not a dream. It's not a hope and a wish, but it's very specific. And he was doing incredible things beyond just winning. Like, he talked about after the caddy's telling the story about after the, he makes a like kind of a long par putt on 17 in a major, and then he really celebrated. He said everybody thought he was celebrating because he kind of clinched the win, and he was like, he was celebrating because he kept his string alive of no bogeys, because he's like, that was his obsession, was just no bogeys in this tournament.
A few different things. Emmitt Smith has talked about like goals or dreams with a timeline. Like, and he talks about that. So when you talk about Tiger putting those specific things and what he wanted to achieve and how lofty they are, but putting a timeline on those accomplishments for himself, that falls in line with what Emmitt Smith, all-time rusher, talked about. The other thing that I hear is the standard, right? And I just think about like Nick Saban and Belichick and those guys talk about, we don't play to scoreboard, we play to the standard. So it's not about whether we win or lose, but it's more so how we play. If we played to the standard and we lost, that's fine. If we played and won, but we didn't play to the standard, I'm more upset about the way that it should look and feel when we're playing. It sounded like Tiger operated on that, process oriented, but also very, very high standard driven when it comes to what he wanted to look like, how he wanted it to feel. And he knew that if he played to his standard, the winning is a byproduct of him doing all of those things right. But I'll say this, DJ, like sometimes when you're that championship caliber team, that team that operates at a high level like that, when you play to that standard, it's so intimidating that you actually start winning because people go into the thing thinking that they have no shot to beat you. And I feel like so many times for Tiger on Sunday, when people saw him in red, they knew if he's in the hunt, it's a wrap. And, it's interesting. I can't wait to hear the additional takeaways that you have, because I've never seen anyone who could change his game to do what he needed to do just to win. If I need to be aggressive, I can dial that up. If I need to scale it back because I got this, I can dial it back.
You know what my next point is, Buck? I don't even know if you can see it here, but it's exactly what you were just saying there.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Selectively aggressive.
Yeah, it was literally, that's my next point, because it talks about how, hey, there's tournaments where guys are going to go low. So I know I need to be aggressive here, and we're going to attack a little bit more. But then there's other ones where it's like, hey, I'm playing the course. And they said he was so good at Augusta of just knowing where to place balls and be conservative. And like, everybody else is going to fall off. They're going to all make mistakes, but he's going to know exactly what areas of the course he needs to do. And it's kind of like navigating that individual course. So in other words, it was be selectively aggressive, manage the course. The different courses, different tournaments are going to demand different things. So it was like, I thought about, it was like Tiger was a game manager. Like he was like that elite talent, but also it's like, hey, I need to let's just manage this. We'll just manage this game here.
DJ, okay, so I'm going to say this, and I'm going to give him his flowers, even though they're coming off a Super Bowl loss. To me, it's the Pat Mahomes approach.
Yeah.
I think Pat Mahomes takes a Tiger Woods approach to the game. Like, I think Pat Mahomes is unique in terms of he can do all the magical stuff, the sorcery that we see him, the no-look throws, the scrambles, and the improvisation. But there is also a part of his game where he'll manage the game and just do what he needs to do to win. And we've seen that happen for so long. And one of the reasons why he operates with such a high winning percentage is because he has learned how to be selectively aggressive as he's matured and gotten older in the league. And 3 Super Bowls, 5 years, all of that comes with it. So it's not about, like, even Tiger, it's not about winning every tournament, but that mentality and that approach gives you a chance to always be in the hunt.
Yeah, to me, it was, and you mentioned Mahomes, it's that when you have the elite mental capacity, and it's a combination, right? You have the ability, you have the mental capacity, and then the maturity. to know which of those you need to delve more into based off of a particular game or particular course, particular day. Like today is going to be a mental day. Like we're just going to be mature. We're going to be smart. We're going to play it safe. And then also some of these days, like, man, I got to put my cape on today. Like in order to do what needs to be done, I got to be that guy that I know I'm capable of. But to me, it's just fascinating that you see these other guys. Like think about basketball players. Some games, like I can just be a distributor in this game, and then there's other games I got to kind of take the game over. And that's kind of what I thought of with Tiger. Which, by the way, it's going through this thing. You realize he was. And I'll get to this next point here. Hold on one sec. Sorry. To me, it was interesting that if you think about these all-time greats, and I think in our lifetime, in terms of athletes, tell me if I'm missing anybody, but I would say it was Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, Serena Williams, probably the three most dominant athletes. Am I missing somebody? That feels to me like that's the three. And soccer, I don't know as well, so I guess Messi or whoever you wanted to say in soccer, but those to me feel like the three of our era of the last quarter century. Those were the three most dominant athletes. And to me, it's ironic that like him and Mike play golf together all the time and we're good buddies. Like not a coincidence.
Not a coincidence because birds of a feather flock together, right? So DJ, when you think about how your mentality is, how you're wired, those guys who are aggressive like that, who are successful like that, they all operate in the same spaces. Like they have the same obsessive nature when it comes to winning and the details, which is why they can't make many friends, but they tend to gravitate towards one another. Look, Tiger Woods, like prior to the injuries, and some of those injuries were done out of a desire to try and push himself to the next level away from the course. So he's trying to do these things to make himself even more dominant. Like I know he had a fascination with the Navy SEALs and all that other stuff. Like those things, trying to be the elite of the elites. They have that obsessive nature when it comes to competing and winning and being the best. And they're hypercritical of their performances, but they're hypercritical because they pour so much into the preparation process.
Yeah, no, and look, we could get into all the Olympic athletes too. You can get into the Michael Phelps of the
Michael
world,
Phelps,
Simone Biles, like there's another whole core group. But I just think in terms of like the biggest like stars, brand name sports, those were the three that came to mind there. The last one I wrote down, so the 5 takeaways. Again, I'm only halfway through this thing, so I'm anxious to see what else I learned through here. But I wrote down and hire the right people and empower them. And obviously, this book's written by the caddy, so I'm sure, and those that know golf might say a little more importance is given to the caddy than maybe he deserved. Maybe it is. Obviously, Tiger is Tiger. But there's no mistaking the fact that these guys had an incredible run together, and he did have an impact. And it tells stories about how, going back to Michael Jordan, there was a major in Chicago. I think Medina, is that the name of the golf course? Anyway, so somewhere where Jordan was a member. So they had gone out there like a week or two ahead of the major to play the course, but also so the caddy could go get information. And he got information. Michael Jordan actually supplied them some information and gave them a tip that like, hey, on the back 9, like it's going to look like there's more break than there is. Like Michael played the course all the time. He was a member there. And so then it talks about how the caddy would then go around and talk to all the local pros, that play this course and were members there to get advice and information for them. And then there's a big putt in this tournament late. And Tiger says, I see it kind of a cup out to the right. And Stevie Williams goes, no, it looks like that, but it's really inside right edge. Like just trust it inside right edge. And he was like, look, it'd have been easy for me to say, hey, I'll just go with you, whatever he says. Because then if it doesn't work out, hey, we were on the same page. But to kind of contradict him and to give him a different read, a different line, he put himself out there a little bit. But Tiger trusted him, listened to him. He hits it just inside right edge and it drops right in the cup and he kind of wins the tournament. But the point being, if you trust the caddy, you hire him, he does all the work. You trust that he's going to do the work and know the course and talk to the people there and have a good feel for it. And then when he gives you the read, you don't poo-poo him. You don't say, I know better than you do. You say, okay, that's what you were hired to do. That was your job. I'm going to trust you, and then we'll go get it done. And I was thinking of in football, what no greater example of that than when you have a coordinator, you hired the coordinator, like let him call the game. Like just that's what his job is. If you trust him to do that, let him do it.
And that is a big part of it, like hiring good people. And the great coaches hire people that they may even deem to be smarter than them because they
Yeah.
want the best people around them and they empower them. If you have someone good, they say give them more stuff. That'll keep them engaged and they're going to do the best with what they have and they're going to turn um, that little opportunity into a better opportunity because they're going to pour everything into it. For Tiger Woods to trust his caddy, to me, that's everything. Like there are a few things that we talk about in team sports that matter: uh, commitment, accountability, and trust. And trust is really the big thing because you got to be committed to do it. You got to hold each other accountable. But if you're committed and accountable, now you can be trustworthy. And I think that Tiger had to see that, look, Steve was in it just like he was. He could hold him accountable. And because he was accountable in terms of how he held himself and how he held Tiger accountable to some things, that led to the trust that was needed to make those decisions in key moments.
Yeah, it's to me it's really been a fun read. Learning more about it, learning more about that era. I mean, the guy was just so dominant, and it was something that we had never seen. And all the hype. Think about all the hype. Like who exceeds the hype when they come into the come into professional space. Like to think about Mike, like going back to Michael Jordan, like he wasn't the first overall pick. Like this was, I mean, everybody knew he was good, but nobody knew he would be the greatest of all time. Tom Brady was no expectations. He was a 6th-round pick. Like to me, the only thing that's even somewhat comparable would be LeBron. Like LeBron
Yeah.
came into it with these unimaginable, unreachable expectations, and somehow he exceeded them. And I feel like Tiger Woods, is the great example of someone who did that.
Yeah. It's funny because LeBron is like that. I think the thing where they differ is the mentality, the outward mentality appears to be different, where Tiger Woods appears to be almost like an assassin, very similar
Mm-hmm.
to the way Kobe approached it. LeBron doesn't appear to have that same demeanor, even though you could say that Tiger Woods and LeBron James are similar because both of them were viewed as the chosen ones, and they didn't disappoint when they got to the next level. From day one, they didn't disappoint. It didn't.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a slow cook like, oh, it's going to take them a while. Nope, I'm here, and I'm gonna be good right out the gate. That is uncommon, but it speaks to the greatness of Tiger Woods, his mentality, his approach, his preparation process.
Yeah. So for those that are interested, the book is Together We Roared. Again, I know we're a football show, but I do think this stuff is transferable, and that's what I wanted to do today. It was fun, Buck. It's fun to get your reaction to it. I'm excited for you to get a chance to jump into this thing whenever you can. But it's what it's doing is it's making me want to read more about this guy, to study more, and be thankful also. Like, man, what we might be the greatest sports fan generation. Maybe, I guess, to me, I guess if you were 80s basketball fan, maybe that was kind of
Mhm.
their sweet spot. But we can honestly say we were still. I mean, we saw the Michael
We've seen
things.
them all.
We've
We've
seen all the
seen
greatest of
like we saw.
all
Yeah,
these
we saw.
different sports.
Yeah, we saw Joe Montana in football. We saw Jerry Rice. We had a chance to basketball from Magic and Bird to Jordan to
Yeah,
LeBron, Kobe
yeah,
thrown in there. We have. There is so much. The Tiger
yep.
era. We talked about in tennis, being able to see the great tennis players. So you can talk about Venus and Serena. You talk about on the women's side, like Steffi Graf also being in that. We can
Mhm.
talk about like just so many people like
Federer.
Federer.
Yep,
Like just P.
yep.
Sampras, Federer. Like there's so many greats that we've seen, and I know they always talk about people being a prisoner of the moment. But when you think about that track record
Yeah.
of what we've seen and where we're able to
Pretty
make
cool,
those
man.
comparisons in different eras, yeah. If you're a sports fan, man, we have been privileged to see a lot of great things.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of sports like, okay, we missed on I guess you say Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer. We were probably a little too young for that
There at
era.
the end of the run when I was
Yeah.
like when he was coming, I think
I think Nicklaus won his
his
last one like the mid 80s, maybe. So
like
technically,
86. I think
I wasn't aware
86
of
was maybe
golf
the
at that
last one.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. But you're right about it being a very privileged run and exposure and what we've seen in Tom Brady in his seven. Just a lot of
Yeah.
great, lot of great ball we've seen.
No question. Well, that was fun today. Again, we'll have some more football stuff as we get into the off season. We'll see what shakes. I think we'll see some more contract extensions get done here. Sounds like people are working on those, so we'll see what happens if we get some news there. We'll definitely have our reaction to it. But that's going to do it for us today. Hope you guys enjoyed a fun off-season episode here of Move the Sticks.